Here we go. So we are on law number 28, and I will say, number one, I hope you like the color. I think it's pretty sweet. I tried to press green on this little button thing, but it was teal. That's what we went with. We are on law number 28 today, and one thing that I want to pause and appreciate is today is Monday, the 17th. It is President's Day, and we have not missed a single day of posting a law. And for one of the laws, it rendered overnight, or actually that's how I've been posting them, but I've done it every single day for, this is the 16th day in a row. And I talked about in the last lecture how I don't take pride in the accomplishments, or I diminish them or shortchange them, but if you just look at what we did year one of Ratliff University starting in 2024, full commitment, not the university lectures that I did back in the end of 2021, but the start of 2024 when I really committed to them on YouTube, because no one has watched this for the ones that I did. Actually, one person, they messaged me on Instagram and they said, I miss your university lectures, when are you going to do them again? And then I sent them a screenshot of all my recent posts on YouTube. I was like, who the hell am I making these for? So there is someone who watched my original Ratliff University lectures back in end of 2021, start of 2022. But the full commitment to where I wanted to post them in this video library, this archive on YouTube within this Ratliff University. If you just compare the output from year one of 2024, collectively I did like 35 videos in the entire year. And right now, we just crested the 50 video mark. What does that mean? It means I've almost done half in 2 weeks that I did in the entire year of 2024. So that is fantastic, that's phenomenal, that's insane output by contrast. So, we're patting ourselves on the back, and then we're moving the puck forward. Here we go. Law number 28 is enter action with boldness. Quote, timidity is dangerous. Enter with boldness, and then I put commit, 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 commit. I would even say that when I would play a video game, and I would be playing with a teammate who would be shy and scared and afraid, and it's a game, right? So imagine you're going into the arena of life. You hesitate, you die. Okay, you go into the octagon, right, a UFC fight, you're gonna get decimated. In a video game where there's no fear and my partner would be afraid to engage within the enemy, I was just like, there's a scene in Avengers, he's like, come on, you're embarrassing me in front of the wizard. That's how I feel. You're embarrassing me, but we're facing wizards, mage, warlock, priest, a paladin. And they would be afraid to commit in a fucking video game. Extrapolate that. If you're afraid to take action in a video game where there's nothing to lose, even if you lose the game, what the hell? Zero fear, zero risk, right? How do you think that translates to their, what would you say, risk, adverse, tolerance, ability in real life? IRL, right? They're not the guy who's going to go up to the girl. They're not the guy who's going to start the business. They're not the guy who's going to quit their job and pursue their dream, right? If they're afraid to fucking commit here, where there's zero risk, what happens with their, when it's all on the line, right? When you have to go all in. What are they going to do then, right? So I would always, it transcends. There's a good quote by Jim Rohn, how you do something is how you do everything. So if you're not tenacious, if you lack boldness within your business, you lack that within your relationship. If you lack that within your work, you lack that within your play, right? If you're not in it to win it, and there's a good ending to this law when it talks about the reversal. And it's kind of like what we discussed earlier, that I said how I was so against this law right here. Initially, use the surrender tactic, transform weakness into power. And I said submission, that's complete garbage, right? But then it's the appearance of you submitting, completely different. So a power tool that you can use is the appearance of timidity, to act like that serpent with the long memory that we discussed in a former law, where you're not a serpent, you're literally John Wick. You're a nice person, loving, compassionate, caring. But when people are trying to test you, when people are trying to manipulate you, you're just calculated and you have cunning, right? You have a high intellectual capacity. You allow manipulation from your enemies to see where they want you to go, and then you use your mind to break the trap and punish the perpetrator, right? It's the exact same sentiment, that you can give this appearance of timidity, when in reality, you're just waiting for the right time to strike. So I love that reversal. It's not you acting with timidness, which he talks about. It's a very, both timidity, shyness, is people's sort of natural state because we like to avoid conflict and confrontation. Boldness, audacity, audacious action, it's quite not the norm. And for me personally, it's a skill that I've had to develop over time. And I call it a skill because what really separates leaders, particularly masculine leaders, is decisiveness, right? Are the ones who take action. The ones who are timid, the ones who are afraid, the ones who are paralyzed by analysis, they're not viewed and revered and regarded as leaders, as masculine role models, right? The ones who are the spectators of life. So when my parents divorced when I was 10 years old, no one taught me decisiveness. No one taught me the tenets of masculinity. No one taught me those leadership qualities. So these are things that I've had to cultivate on my own over time by seeking out masculine role models, which in today's world, far and few between. I was very fortunate to come across Greg Plitt on my path, who laid the foundation of all the virtues and tenets that I've chosen to align with, or that not chosen to align with, but that spoke to me as a young man. Character, integrity, will, perseverance, heart, passion, right? Your word meaning something, you taking pride in ownership, right? Responsibility, accountability for all of your actions. Those things aren't preached today in this modern garbage world, right? It's all degeneracy. It's all promiscuity. There's no, you could list less than 10 people who are true masculine leaders, masculine role models, right? Who are inviting those tenets, those virtues to live and abide by. So a lot of young men, particularly when you look at the divorce rate, dude, it's in 40-something% for first time divorces, and then that second marriages, it goes to like 60%, and then third time I think it's like 70 or something percent, the divorce rate. But what's cool, a caveat in that, even though that's a terrifying statistic, is something that they don't say is that marriages founded on the basis of God have a 1% separation rate, which is awesome. It is awesome. So it's awesome when you're founding your relationship, you're building a foundation with God at the center of it, which I talked about before. God is just your highest virtue, is the pinnacle virtue. We talk about becoming Christ-like, right? That's unparalleled character and integrity and your word, right? So I think it just comes down to what you want to align with, right? Do you want to be timid? The quote that was very reminiscent for me when I read this law was the whole nice guys finish last. Like at a certain point on your journey, you have to stop letting people just use you and walk over you. You have to have the courage to stand up for yourself. And I've learned this from tolerating so much disrespect over the years and iterating. Why am I getting so much disrespect from other people? Why do people feel so comfortable coming to me with disrespect, with manipulation? It wasn't their fault. It was mine, because I was setting the precedent. I'm the kind of person who tolerates disrespect and doesn't do anything and doesn't call them out, because I didn't want confrontation, because I didn't want to not be liked by them, whatever the case was in the past. And then they would just push and push and push, and then you can't take it anymore. And then you just have to call out this bully, this snake, this weasel, this rat. And then you'll find this with men. I can swear God is my witness. Men are the biggest pussies. If you stand up to one of these bullies, one of these pricks once, they'll be a fucking chihuahua. They'll cower so quickly. And that's how you'll, to bullies, I saw this in an interview with Kobe and Shaq, he corroborated this, that to the manipulative bully, which is what Shaq was, he would push you and bully you just to see how much he could get away with until you would stand up for yourself, and that's how you would earn his respect. Those are garbage people. Those are just straight bullies. My oldest brother is a perfect example of that, who, it's a fucking game to them. So the way that you challenge those people or earn their respect is you cut them out of your fucking life. And that's exactly what happened with Shaq and Kobe. There's an awesome interview where he's like, how do you feel about this championship that he got? He's like, I just got one more ring than Shaq. Fuck those people. Fuck bullies, dude. I don't have any sort of sympathy for them. And they don't deserve any, because all it is a projection of their own insecurity. So they just sort of take it out on the world. I'll tell you a cool fact when it comes to your hero's journey. The hero and the villain have the same backstory. They've both been through pain. They've both been through pain. And I love that I saw this once upon a time on a video. The villain says, the world hurt me, I'm gonna hurt the world, okay? The hero says, the world hurt me, I'm gonna make sure no one else goes through this pain. And how beautiful is that, that you can alchemize and transmute your pain and choose to be the hero or choose to be the villain. You can choose to be the bully, the prick, right? Or you can choose to be that beacon of hope and light for someone else going through the exact same thing that you're going through. So when it comes to boldness, it comes to you developing the self-image of a man who does not tolerate disrespect. And you don't have, I said this in a prior lecture, you don't have to do that in a dickish way. You don't have to be audacious, outlandish. You don't have to do any of that. You could just literally make it very clear that if you want to be a part of my life, you're not going to invite any sort of garbage into it. You're not going to bleed on someone who didn't cut you. You're not going to attempt manipulation on me. You're not going to bully me. You're not going to disrespect me. And under that premise, that's your framework, right? So they can't think of you as the bouncer within your life. The other person can't come in unless they abide by these basic etiquettes, right? These basic principles, laws, these standards, right? That you now align with. So I've had to learn that the hard way. I've had motherfuckers come to me and invite nothing but disrespect, nothing but garbage, nothing but projection. And all you have to do is stand up to them once. In the book, Make Your Bed by Admiral William McRaven, which I have right here, he talks about that exact same sentiment. It's actually a chapter in it. Stand up to the bullies. All you gotta do is do it once, and then you'll see how quickly these men cower. And it's just, like I said, it's a reflection of their deep-seated insecurities that they just lash out on somebody else. You know, somebody wasn't fucking hugged enough as a child or told that they were loved. Or what you actually find is people who their significance cup is so low, it's an adult sort of throwing a tantrum. Like, I noticed this, I was in the Dollar Tree one time, and this guy was this grown man. He had to have been 30 years older than me. He was bitching how there was one cashier and there was such a long line. He was just complaining. I couldn't take it anymore. I turn around, I was next in line. I say, hey buddy, go in front of me. And he's like, oh, no, it's okay. I said, no, you've made it very clear to everyone here that this is such a problem for you. I'm giving you the solution right now to be next. Please, I'm in no rush, right? I worded it slightly differently, but it was that exact same clarification of the truth. And he cowered immediately because, and then there's a good quote by Jack Sparrow, the problem isn't the problem. The problem is your attitude about the problem. And you can tie this into conflict resolution. Most people bitch and moan for the sake of attention, for the sake of bitching and moaning. Their problem isn't their problem. This guy was complaining about the cashier and the long line, how there should be multiple cashiers, how, you know, it's so terrible for him to wait in the fucking dollar store, right? And the reality was, it was a 50, 60-year-old man throwing a fucking tantrum saying, someone please notice me. Someone please validate my existence. Someone please confirm that I matter in the slightest, right? So that's the same sentiment when it comes to bullies. They do the same garbage. Someone please validate that my feelings matter, that I matter. And when you distill it down, that's all it is, dude. It's a fucking child, right? Projecting. Okay, because they're trying to elicit something. Significance, attention, certainty, love, connection, money, whatever the case, right? So, does that make sense? There's a scene in Wolf of Wall Street where Margot Robbie, she's in a bathtub drinking champagne. She's like, got it? Good. Now get the fuck out of here. Okay, so another quote. So timidity is dangerous, right? Because you'll create it's as if you're walking around with a sign on your back saying, come to the insecure. I'm not saying this is what you're actually doing because I'm a very to myself kind of person when I go about my day. But I'm fortunate. I'm 6'2". I'm not a small person. So people don't, go out of their way to invite confrontation into my life. And I am so good at playing the fool to fool the fool that when they do, I'm able to make them think that what they're doing is sort of going over my head, and I play the innocent, naive, gullible kind of a deal, and then you're able to manipulate them at will and get them to do whatever you want, or to diffuse any situation, or to make them feel significant or smart or funny or whatever the case is. So if you just employ basic level intellect, it's a really good combative tool to what? Bullies. Okay. So timidity is dangerous, but that's if you don't practice, there's a good quote, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And I know if you've ever seen Lord of the Rings, Samwise Gamgee would disagree, but that's why. I learned this from Jordan Peterson, and I know I'm jumping around, and then we'll get into a concise lecture, but he said, if you lack the ability for danger, there's no virtue in you being kind. As in, if you don't have the capacity to do someone harm, and you're choosing to be nice, it's not a choice, you're nice by default. So timidity is dangerous when you lack the capacity to decimate someone. But if you're a young man watching this, we all have that capacity to be savage. And the beauty is if you're trying to progress as the best protector and best provider, you're trying to be a savage servant, right? A savage servant. As in, when danger arises, you can take care of it. But you're not going out of your way looking for problems, conflict, danger. But you're looking to protect your team from it. You're the kind of guy who would lay down his life for his woman, right? That's not a guy who's timid, right? That's a guy who just chooses not to go out of his way to cause problems needlessly. And you find that with a lot of martial artists, that the last thing that they're trying to do is resort to physicality. Like they do everything that they can unless necessity demands that before opening that door, because they don't want that to happen. And I have no experience in that realm yet, but I felt the exact same way under all of the investigation or the bullying and harassment that I've been subject to within my rat life job. I was just like, please stop, please stop, please stop. And then, you're going to HR and you're going to the superintendent and you're doing all this. And then I literally felt like John Wick. It's just like, because I didn't want to engage. Like literally with John Wick, how in the scene where the Russian guy is talking shit on him, his car, his bitch, well, he calls him a bitch in Russian, his dog and all this, the last thing he wants to do is get in a confrontation with you because he knows how that ends. And I felt the exact same way with my serpent boss. I just, like, in my mind, it's like, you don't want to do this. I promise, you don't want to step into the arena with me. And it's a very, very calm confidence that you have when you know that your enemy is, I don't want to say the word toddler, is when it comes to being an opponent in an intellectual capacity, they're just there's a good scene in Clash of the Titans where Hades is like, you are dust beneath our fingernails. And that's how I felt with my serpent boss. Like, you don't want to go toe to toe with me in the intellectual arena. I promise. And that's the mistake a lot of stupid and manipulative bullies make. And they're very narcissistic. And so they just presume that they're smarter than other people simply because of their made up title. They're so arrogant and they're so full of themselves and they're so smug and they're so just blinded with stupidity that the concept of someone who has a lesser rank, a lesser title, having a greater intellectual capacity than them, it's not a thought that crosses their mind. So they commit so much hubris and so much oversight, and they overstep so much to their detriment. So I was literally just, you don't want to do this in my head, right? But I was playing the perfect courts here. Literally in this law, he talks about this Russian kid who he's essentially abused and picked on and bullied, and all his friends are, banished and this. And then the guards, he's raised in the royal palace in Russia, and the guards also hate this sort of bullying kind of family. And then this 13-year-old kid executes these people or banishes them one by one. Like, it's just about biding your time, being that John Wick, and then when these motherfuckers cross the line, you practice that emotional stoicism. You don't react. You're just calculating. You're very shrewd. You're very cunning. You're not showing your cards. This is the peak level of playing the fool to fool the fool. You're playing the role as if you're not bothered, as if you don't see how they're abusing you, or you're not reacting to the abuse, or you're ignorant of manipulation that's happening. You give them the illusion that it's all going over your head, that you don't know any better. And that is how you literally get any of your enemies in a checkmate position. And when I say enemies, I mean people going out of their way to abuse you, to harass you, to bully you, until literally it's time for you to say checkmate and you fucking decimate them. So Does that make sense with timidity is dangerous? I think we touched the first bullet point. We can move on. Enter with boldness, commit. Commit, commit, commit. That should be your only mantra of 2025. If I were to synthesize every personal development book within this university, including this one, it's action, action, action. Tony Robbins describes knowledge as potential power, right? But he says action, execution trumps knowledge every day of the week. And another good quote by Jim Rohn. Excuse me. Those who have the ability to read and don't are no different from the person who does not read or can't read. So understand that knowledge without action is useless. Knowledge without change is useless. I know people all the time, oh, I've read this book, or I've read this book multiple times, or I know this. And then I say, yeah, that's fine. What have you applied from it? Oh, nothing. So therefore you haven't learned shit, right? Good quote by Jim Rohn. Again, new knowledge isn't necessarily learning something new. It's learning to behave in a way that we haven't previously behaved before. So again, it's about learning something and then absorbing the material and then applying what you've learned. Otherwise, you didn't learn shit. Next. Does that make sense? Take action. Okay. Fortune favors the bold. Very common quote. And I think I heard that from Agamemnon. It might be in the Iliad. I'm not sure. Haven't read the full thing. But it's obviously a famous quote. And then the other quote that I thought of when I wrote that, after writing the intro to this, law number 28, enter action with boldness, is glory is fleeting, but obscurity is forever. That's a quote from Napoleon Bonaparte. Okay. And then this whole law of enter action with boldness, it reminded me of the 10X rule by Grant Cardone. No, I dropped a book. I actually dropped his other book, The Millionaire Booklet. He has several books, but these are the two that I resonated with, and I really like the 10X rule. It really was my first book it was actually the first book I ever read on personal development. It changed my mindset on how I view money. I originally viewed money with such a negative connotation, and then I understood from Grant Cardone, from the 10X rule, from his videos and podcasts or his interviews, that you not pursuing your financial prosperity is actually incredibly selfish. And you could replace financial prosperity with your potential. Because of the quote that I said from Tony Robbins, it's not about what I get, it's about who I become and what I'm able to give now that I've become more. So you choosing not to become more is the most selfish thing you can do, you can be, to all the people that you say that you care about. As in, you could become more, you could, acquire new skills, you could develop your craft, you could improve your financial life, and then you could give so much more to other people. But by you choosing not to become more, you're in effect, inadvertently, choosing not to give more to the people that you say that you care about. So you not pursuing financial abundance, you not pursuing your potential, it's actually the most selfish thing you could possibly do. It's not selfless in the slightest, which is the antithesis of what we're taught, how money is greedy and it's just for people who are, all selfish, completely the opposite. Jeff Bezos did a good interview where he said, I don't remember what his share was, it was like 16% in Amazon, and he had like a couple $100 billion, or just under a couple $100 billion. And he said, for me to have that equity, I had to provide $800 billion of value to other people. And that's the exact same, that's the ideology when it comes to financial prosperity and abundance, right? For you to have this, you had to have provided so much value to other people. And in today's world, unfortunately, that value is often just in the form of entertainment and keeping people's attention, often through degeneracy and stupidity. But I digress. So, amazing book. But there's a quote in the book that says, the best way to kill fear is to starve it of time. The best way to kill fear is to starve it of time. So people who are very timid, they're very shy, they give space for non-execution because they hesitate. And then what happens when you give fear time? Doubt. An inner dialogue goes on. Oh, be careful. Oh, you shouldn't do this. Jim Rohn talks about, well, what if this happens? Well, then what if this happens? Oh man, I'd sure be in a fix, right? In this law, he talks about you can bypass through all of that garbage with audacious action. And then there's a good ideology that's very similar sentiment expressed by Andrew Tate that says speed is the cure-all. Speed, speed. Not sacrificing quality, Just like within these lectures, even though I'm doing one video a day, which is that's a ton for YouTube content, I'm not sacrificing the quality on any of these lectures. They're done right. I'm laying a beautiful brick each time. Some obviously better than others, but regardless, I'm enacting speed, not at the sacrifice of quality. But that's the whole heart of it. Time allows for fear to set in, and doubt and worry and concern. You can bypass through all of that bullshit with just attacking. The way that I've conditioned it is I end every shower on the coldest setting. I don't give my mind time to say, oh, you shouldn't do this. I don't allow it. If you can condition, I learned this in a book, it's a lot easier to condition action than it is to condition emotion. As in, if you're trying to change your emotional state and you're angry and you say, I'm no longer angry, I'm happy, it's hard to bullshit yourself to change that state. Not to say that it's not possible, because changing states, it's like a muscle, that if you rehearse that over and over and over, you can change it very quickly. But Tony Robbins describes that we have a highway to anger and a dirt path to gratitude and to peace. And it's very, very true. So that's a way that I condition myself to attack fear. It transcends, I promise, where I'll end the shower on the coldest setting. What am I doing? I'm training my subconscious mind that what I say goes. There's no fucking discussion. There's no dispute. I'm not negotiating with you. You're going to do as I say. You then become the master of your mind and not its slave. So many people are a slave to their mind. They're a slave to the inner dialogue of fear, of, oh, be careful, oh, worry, oh, concern, oh, what about if this happens? I don't do any of that bullshit. I've made the press snap, set the fucking standard. What I say goes, period. And then this is what happens. Over time, if you do this enough time, you'll be able to look at yourself in the mirror, and then Conor McGregor says this in an interview, if you have the courage to speak it, and you believe it, if you can see it and have the courage to speak it, it'll happen. He's talking about the idea of manifesting, because he called out exactly what was going to happen in a certain fight. But it's completely true, because that's what confidence is. It's a self-trust system. So if I say I'm going to do something and I have a plethora of history substantiating that I do what I say I'm going to do, then when I look at myself in the mirror, there's no doubt. There's not a shadow of a doubt, because I said it and I have 1,000 pieces of evidence proving that I do what I say. So all I'm doing is inviting a new, piece of evidence to add to this stack. Kobe Bryant describes a very similar thing. He says, if I look very cold, ice cold when I'm taking a game-winning shot, right, when all the pressure is on the line, he says, I've practiced this for thousands of hours in private. So that's what confidence is. He said, confidence comes from preparation. So if you have certainty, right, of consistency with what you say and what you do, then when it comes time to put it on the line, there's no doubt, because you haven't allowed for that that result, that consequence. That's one way that I do it. The other way that I do it is every time I see a woman that I like or something that I admire about them, I go up and I tell them. And then that's another way that I condition myself to attack fear. Because all guys can resonate. If you get like butterflies, or you're afraid to go up to someone, or you're intimidated by them, whatever. If you do it enough times, you'll lose that fear. But it's from enacting this quote: the best way to kill fear is to starve it of time. You don't allow yourself to think, to second guess, to worry, you don't allow for doubt to seep in to your actions. So you enact the quote: enter action with boldness. Okay, moving on. Hesitation puts obstacles in your path. Boldness eliminates them. It's very true. Speed is the cure-all. Action is the cure-all. And the reason why I put this, the faster you take action, the faster you get to fail. The faster you fail, the faster you get to iterate, right? And then overcome, and then eventually succeed. So people are so afraid to start that they're not going to get to this problem. I'll give you a good example. Say you're making a YouTube video. There's a good interview with Mr. Beast, and he says, just make 100 videos, and then iterate and improve one thing about the videos each time. And then when you do the iteration process, you'll be like, okay, the sound quality could improve, which was a comment on a previous lecture that someone saw. Okay, the lighting could change. Okay, the video production quality could improve. Okay, your posture could change. Okay, how am I speaking, right? Oh, am I speaking shy? Am I speaking quiet? Or am I speaking with authority and certainty and resolve, right? They stack. And so you can't get to the good problems without 1,000 iterations. There's a good, oh my God, there's such a good line in one of the previous laws. Or no, I saw it, I think on Instagram, but I think it was from a quote from the 48 Laws of Power. And it said, if you look at the history of the winner and the loser, you'll see that just based on an observational standpoint, that they're both failures. Conceptually, if you look at how both, just what their past, shows and illuminates, all you will see with the person who's a successful winner is perpetual failure. And it's an exact quote by Michael Jordan. He was like, I'm going to butcher the numbers, but I was trusted with a game-winning shot. It's like over 20 times. I missed over, I think it was like 9,000 shots in his career. And he said, I failed over and over and over and over again. And that is why I succeed. It's from enacting this exact thing. From hesitation puts obstacles in your path, boldness eliminates them. It's that quote from the hockey player that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Is it Wayne Gretzky? The faster you take action, this is my commentary, which means fail. If you try, you're going to fail. Quote by Denzel Washington, that if you're not failing, you're not even trying. The faster you can iterate, improve, overcome, and then eventually succeed. Your success is inevitable, so long as you keep problem solving, right? As in, I told you in the book Principles, he talks about the exact success cycle, which looks like this. You try something, you fail, you iterate, you try, and then you overcome. And then you don't repeat that mistake. And then you try something new. And then there's another failure. And then it looks like that. It literally looks like an upward loop, like that, but it's a linear progression over time. But how does that happen? How do you get to these good problems? I had a story of a client shared in an older lecture that she came in all upset one day. And I was like, what's wrong, Kathleen? And she's like, oh my God, Tarek, wouldn't you believe it? My dock was reserved for my second boat. And so I have nowhere to park it. Surely you understand. And I said, Kathleen, I just fucking hate it when the boys give me trouble when I'm trying to just simply dock my second yacht. The burden. So that's how you get to the good problems, right? From iterating. But you won't get to the good problems of being unable to park your second yacht if you don't fail here, if you don't enter action with boldness. Okay. Quote from the law. Great enterprises are only achieved by adventurous spirits. They who calculate with too great nicety every difficulty and obstacle which is likely to lie in their way lose that time in hesitation, which the more daring seize and render available to the loftiest purposes. It's so true. The guy who, I'm going to butcher the quote, but it was like, an idiot who takes action is better than a genius with a great plan who takes no action. Why? Because action is what is going to yield results. And then if you enter action with boldness, that's massive action. That's massive action, right? So if you think about the success cycle, right, you have the maximum belief, which is the mantra of rat life. It starts with belief. The higher your belief is, the more potential you'll initially tap into, okay? The more potential you tap into from the jump, the more action you will take. You will enter action with boldness. The more action you do, the better your results are going to be, right? Me just doing more output within these lectures, I've already done half of what I've done in 2 weeks that I did the entirety of 2024. What do you think the result is going to be for the growth of Rat Life, of this university, of Tarek House within 2025 and onward, right? It's from massive action, from massive belief, right? Massive potential, massive action, massive results. And then when you get results, you can use YouTube as a context in the form of new subscribers or, longer watch hours or people reaching out to you or whatever the case is, then, you're able to iterate. You're able to see, wow, this is working. I'm going in the right direction. How can I take even more action, get even better results, and get results even quicker and faster? And then thus the flywheel goes faster and faster and faster until you break through, until you, quote, make it, right? And that, quote, making it is enacting this. Is enacting breaking through the obstacles that are put in your path that hesitation would yield. Got it? Does that make sense? So what is the summary before I move on? Boldness, courage, commitment, take action. And I said this in a previous lecture, force the commitment however you need to. If you're going on the physical transformation and you lack the will, the discipline, the accountability, hire a coach, hire a trainer. Force yourself to commit through financial accountability. Food for thought. Food for thought. I would do this, man. When I was younger and I lacked the discipline and motivation and all these things to go to the gym, and I was first starting my physical transformation, I would force myself to drink pre-workout and then be so hyped on caffeine and then say, well, now I have to go to the gym. Now I have to go. The rhetoric changes. Now I have to go because otherwise I'm wasting money. You can do the exact same thing with any physical transformation. Next, the bolder the attack, the more you stand out from the crowd and the more admiration you earned. And this is a quote from the book. This can be most clearly seen in seduction. And I can completely attest to this. So I'm going to reiterate. The bolder the attack, the more you stand out from the crowd and the more admiration you earn. So in my seducing days, if there was a woman who I thought was just drop dead gorgeous, even if she would be in a crowd of other people, even if she would be talking to other people, even if she would be talking to another guy, I would go straight for the person that I wanted. And then that level of resolve that I'm sold on you, that is how you captivate them. That is how you get this aura around you. It's just it's from enacting this law, interaction with boldness, but it's from enacting this exact thing. The bolder the attack, the more you stand out from the crowd and the more admiration you earn. As in, if I were to go shy, timid, uncertain, that's what I'm communicating with the person, that I'm not sure about you. If I'm not sure about them, how the fuck are they going to be sure about me? But if I sell them as if, oh my God, it's you. I don't give a shit about anyone else. No one else in this room even exists right now. You have my undivided attention, right? The level of presence you're able to yield from someone, dude, it is magic. And most people, where they fail when it comes to seducing someone, or when it just even comes to winning someone over, right? Say a guy is pursuing a woman, or going up to a girl, or trying to get their number, or whatever the case is. The thing that they mess up so much is they're in their head. They're in their head. If you're in your head, you give that space for them to be in their head, for them to be unsure and uncertain about you. But if you are bold, if you speak with conviction, resolve, certainty, it is magic what you can achieve with that. And again, the magic comes from you getting them to be put in a place of presence. And that's where the magic lies. As in, nothing else exists, nothing else matters. You're pitching and catching. They're not in their head. They're not overthinking. And that is the art of seduction that I'm sure we're going to go into in the next book, once we're done with the 48 Laws of Power. But we're on law number 28, which is actually awesome, because if you do the math, that just means we have 20 more to go. And then we get into the art of seduction, which has 24 techniques. Okay. But can you understand, can you visualize that the guy who is communicating uncertainty, insecurity, fear, hesitation, doubt, how can the woman look at that guy in a role of leadership, in a role of admiration, if he's communicating fear and intimidation by her, right? I've learned this over the years from pedestaling women, that women cannot respect a man who places them on a pedestal, right? Because a woman is looking up to a guy. She's looking for a guy she can look up to. If you put her on a pedestal, by definition, she's looking down at you. You're not a man who's communicating that you can lead her. So very, very important, this quote, and I love that I came across it. It said, if you treat me like a fan, sorry, this is the quote. I don't want to butcher it. If you treat me like a celebrity, I'm going to treat you like a fan. And that's, again, it ties in with approaching women, or just going about your day in general, or just talking to somebody who you admire. If you treat them like a celebrity, they have to treat you like a fan. But if you treat them like a fucking equal, they will treat you and respect you like an equal. Okay? It's all perception. It's all perception. I noticed this when I first got hired within my Rat Life job, where I'm just so, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever, this. And then I would be treated as if I was a fan from my, administrators. But then I would see another administrator who just got hired, who he came with the persona of been there, done that, and then he was treated like, oh, this guy, he's an equal to us, right? It's the exact same way when it comes to approach and seduction and relationships with women. If you don't put them on a fucking pedestal and you treat them like an equal, they will treat you like an equal. But if you come in insecure, timid, fear, doubt, intimidation, I just discussed it. How do they have to treat you by default? And again, whose fault is that? It's not hers, right? It's yours, from the framework that you've set up before even engaging in the interaction. So what is the solution? To enter the next one, the next interaction, with boldness, with bold action, with decisiveness, with assertiveness, with certainty, with conviction. I want you, period. No one else exists. I'll tell you this from experience, that your success rate, right, if you look at sales conversion when it comes to closing women, will be 1,000 times higher if you go all in on the one person that you want, even if you think that, oh, they're way out of my league. It's all bullshit. I learned this, and my brother told me a great quote a long time ago. He said, there's no such thing as leagues. When you understand that, you can have anyone. 100% true. When you go in with all in, like you're playing poker, on one person, you have 1,000% more chances to do that than if you go in unsure, timid, uncertain to 100 different people, right? And not to be, crude. Yes, you can get laid by, going up to 100 girls with that sort of garbage approach. But if you're aligning on this noble quest to become a made man, you're not looking for the average woman. You're looking for one of those, a wife. You're looking for the kind of girl who's rare, more rare than rubies. And the way that you're going to do that is from communicating boldness, man. Put yourself in their shoes. Do they want a guy who's unsure about himself and therefore communicates he's unsure about you? No. They want someone who's certain, who knows where they're going. That's a man they can follow. But if you're communicating that you're lost, how can they follow you? How can they look at you as a man to lead? They can't. To continue. Do boldly what you do at all. There was a little quote from it, but it's so true. And then I put all or none. And it's just an ideology I first learned from Greg Plitt. If you're gonna fucking do something, do it completely, do it right. Do the job right or don't do it at all. And then he goes on and says, this is very, very good imagery for how you should be operating as a man under the basis of character and integrity. If you see trash on the ground, your identity, if you're a part of this university, if you're affiliated with Tark House or Rat Life, should be, I'm the kind of guy who always picks up trash when I see it. Period. That's my identity. Okay. If you're washing your car and you're finished washing it, you put everything away, but then you go back and you notice that a spot is still dirty, what do? Do you go and you grab the hoses and you grab the bucket and you fill it up with water and soap and then complete the job and do it right? Or do you say it's good enough, right? We don't say good enough ever. I've removed that vernacular from my vocabulary. I've forbidden myself to say it. If I'm brushing my teeth, if I'm doing my laundry, if I'm cleaning out the lint that's in the washer, the stuff that you take out, or you should be taking out, not just fucking leaving it there for the next guy. I'm speaking to the people who have to use a communal laundry, not the ones who, actually, even if you have one in your house, you'd have to do the same activity. What do you do when no one's watching? Do you cut the corners here? Let me tell you, neglect bleeds. If you fucking shortchange it here, don't ever expect to get this out of life. It's the same thing with the gym. If you half-ass it, if you quit at rep 9 instead of going to failure and beyond, what can you expect out of your life when you exit that gym, when you leave that environment? That you can control all the variables. What happens when you go out into life with variables that you cannot control? Circumstances and conditions that will arise that you have no control over, right? So that's why whatever you do, do it right. Every single time without question. Success is not a light switch that goes on and off when someone's watching. It is constant. It's a quote from Greg Plitt. And the final one that he says, if you're dusting your countertop and there's a picture frame, what do? Do you pick it up and fucking do the job right? Or do you say good enough? Or do you just go around it? I literally, every time I'm presented with the opportunity to do a job right when no one's watching, I literally just memorize, I've memorized his quote, do the job right or don't do it at all. That's the same person with his hand raised one day. Same motherfucker. What you do in the small things of life build the character winning blocks of the things that we're remembered for. And then he's like, I see him as one and one the same guys. It's how you hold yourself in the small things of life. If you do it then, I promise you'll be doing it when everyone's watching. I've watched his videos and I've listened to that over and over and over again. And then I've applied that to every aspect of my life. I said, do the fucking job right or don't do it at all. That's a basic masculine tenet. But in the world that we live in, it's all about good enough. It's all about shortcutting it here. It's all about, oh, this doesn't matter. Because people don't take pride in the small things. But if you're not true when the numbers are small, don't ever expect to be entrusted with more, right? If I'm not true with my passion and my consistency when I'm at 275 subscribers, don't fucking ever expect to be entrusted to steward and to speak to and be given a platform to reach more. If you're not true when the numbers are small, do the job right from day one. Do what you can where you are with what you have, because it's enough, dude. If I don't do it here, I'm not going to do it when I have more. If I don't tithe with this, I'm not going to tithe when I have more. Quote from Tony Robbins. If you don't give a dime out of a dollar, you're not going to give 100,000 out of a million. But people say, oh, when I have more money, then I'll give more. If you don't give when you have nothing, you'll never give when you have more. And that's shifting from a state of lack to abundance, right? There's always more. There's always enough. I always get more money. I'm always taken care of. I'm always provided for. God, I saw a good quote. It's on God's tab, right? What I sow, I will reap. If I give, I will get. These ideologies, okay? So whatever you do it right every fucking time, okay? Do boldly what you do at all or none, man. The moment the seducer hesitates, so this is the other key to the law, interaction with boldness that we can see through seduction. The moment the seducer hesitates, the charm is broken, because we become aware of the process. It's very true. As in, you pull them out of the present moment. So if you invite, like I said, if you create a space, a gap for hesitation, for unsure, making a person feel unsure about you, then you allow for introspection. But the way that you counteract that is by keeping them in the present moment. That's where the magic is. That's how you can charm and seduce people. Not that I've done that before. But that's the moment the seducer hesitates, the charm is broken, because we become aware of the process. And then the last quote is, we admire the bold because their confidence infects us and draws us outside of our realm of inwardness and reflection. We bring you to the present moment where the magic lies. It's very true. And I've had to do this with a lot of women in my history of dating, where if someone is just in their own head, you can break the loop. It's called breaking a pattern. I learned this from Tony Robbins. And you can just do little things to get them out of their own head. So if you've ever seen the Netflix series, I'm Not Your Guru, he does this with a guy who's suicidal, where, he goes with his, physiology. He's like this, hey, why are you depressed? Why are you suicidal? He's like, well, and he has the shoulders roll forward. He's shallow breathing, very low talking. And then Tony was like, is it your shoes? And he's like, what? He's like, is it your shoes? Is that the reason you want to kill yourself? Because your red shoes. He's like, I might want to off myself too if I had shoes like that. And he makes him laugh. He does exactly this quote. And I know we said seduction, you can apply it to guys or girls. He gets him out of his own head. He breaks his fucking pattern, right? He's on loop, right? Victim narrative loop, right? Woe is me, my life is so terrible, I'm depressed. No. What is this with your shoes? And then he laughs. And then he says this. He says, don't laugh, you'll fuck this up. You'll fuck it up. You'll fuck up the bullshit ideology that you have depression. Okay. It's very, very true. And I thought about this a lot because, I've overcome drug overdoses, and I've overcome living in my car for 93 days, and I've overcome, bullying and harassment and abuse from work. And if you are in this university, the one thing that should be a complete certainty of alignment is that depression is a choice. Don't mistake that. We all get depressed. That's a state like any other. I can be depressed, I can be angry, I can be happy. It's a choice. It is a choice to stay in any of those states. But depression, complete choice. Complete choice. To forfeit all action, to give all the life's events a negative meaning, to say this happened to me, to not look for the positive, to focus on all the lack, to focus on how you're the victim, right? Versus how did this happen for me? It's a fantastic idea. We learned this from Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. The only decisions you can make in this life are what you focus on, the meaning that you give things, and the action that you take. You can choose to focus on the lack, the negative, how this happened to you. You can give this a negative meaning, right? That this happened to me. You can focus on the things that you cannot control, and you can choose to take no action. Those are the depressed. Those are the victims of life. Those are the villains. If you're in this university, you're not a selfish victim. You don't wallow in depression. You get depressed like any other person. I've been depressed before. I don't stay there, right? I choose to focus on what I can control. I choose to give things a beautiful meaning. I choose to say, how did this happen for me? Where am I being guided? What did I learn from this? What actions did I change? What limiting beliefs did I shatter by enduring this tragedy, adversity, struggle, hardship? Is it bad, or is it a stepping stone to the very life I say that I want? And then what action do I take? What do I do about it, right? Do I enter action with boldness, or do I take no action? Do I be a victim? Do I be a spectator in my life, right? So that's the last of it. It says timidity. That's a recurring theme in this. The antithesis of entering action with boldness is timidity, being timid, being shy, being afraid. Because that's what being timid is. It's fear of what? Confrontation, rejection. If you have an insatiable need to be liked by other people, the timidness for you to speak your truth is communicating the fear that you're not going to be liked by these people. I'll say a couple things for you. Number one, on your best day, you'll still not be enough for the wrong person. On your worst day, you'll still be enough for the right person. So when you're going about your day and you're thinking about, should I be timid, or should I try to enact courage? Should I try to develop my masculine tenets and virtues and ideologies of assertiveness, of decisiveness, of basic leadership, right? And you're posed with the two options: shy timidness or bold, audacious action. At some point you have to speak your truth, right? At some point you have to forfeit the fear of giving a fuck what anyone thinks about you. At some point you have to own who you are, own your truth, own your certainty, own your conviction and resolve. A good quote that if you want to, avoid all conflict in your life, be nothing, do nothing, say nothing. I'm butchering the order of that. I don't know if that was Aristotle or Socrates, or Plato. One of them said that. Be nothing, say nothing, do nothing, and then you'll avoid all problems, concerns, woes in your life. But if you are something and you say something, you're gonna get the critics in life, right? If you're a light, you're gonna get the moths. You're gonna get if you have a garden, you're gonna get the bugs and the bees and the pests and the parasites and the people trying to infiltrate your beautiful garden. You're gonna get these motherfuckers who try to come into your life with manipulation. And all you have to do is stand guard at the doorway of your mind. All you have to do is be perspicacious. All you have to do is enact boldness, take massive action, have the courage to speak your truth. I'll tell you a good quote. In your 20s, you care about what people think about you. In your 40s, you stop caring. In your 60s, you realize no one was thinking about you at all. I think that's a quote attributed to Winston Churchill, and is very, very true. It's all in your head. No one gives a fuck about you as much as you think that they do. They're all, think about it. When you're looking at other people, how overwhelmed are you with their problems and concerns and woes and stresses? You don't give them a single thought a day. So a good interview from Kobe Bryant, he said, get over yourself. He said, you missed some air balls, you lost the game. He said, you're not that important. Nobody thinks that of you. That, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world because of your failures, your mistakes, your stance, right? You will lose people when you decide to have the courage to be yourself, right? When you had the courage to stand up for what you fucking believe in. You'll lose people that were never really your friends to begin with, because of the quote from Dr. Seuss, be who you are, say how you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. So if you have people coming into your life who exit your life when you decide to be yourself, they were never your friends to begin with, right? So you can keep up that pretense, that mask for so long, but you'll find out that you don't have any friends. So if you're trying to be the perfect courtier your entire life, and you have all these people who are your friends, and you have tens and hundreds of friends, you probably have zero fucking friends, right? Because nobody knows who the real you are. You know what the consequence, the casualty of that is? If no one knows who the real you is, no one can love you for you. If you get loved for being the person that you're pretending to be, you have to pretend to be someone you're not for your entire life. So just ask yourself, to what end, right? I made the decision, and it's just because maybe I'm just getting older, but I've lost patience for inauthenticity. I've lost the patience to stand quiet in a world void of masculine leadership, in a world omnipresent with cowardice. It becomes my responsibility. I'm just like, somebody has to do it. So, someone has to speak the truth. Somebody has to, not harbor fucking cowardice, to set an example for other young men to not harbor cowardice in a world where that's omnipresent, of these feminine, indecisive, non-assertive, weak, timid men. And it's just like, someone has to speak the truth. Someone has to not be such a pussy. So I saw this in another good interview, and it said most people, they go the entrepreneurial route just because they had a problem and they were like, there's no solution to it, so I'm going to create the solution. Like, most people make a product or service because it was what they wanted for themselves. And I feel the same way with this university. My parents divorced when I was 10 years old. I had no masculine role model or leadership. So I'm like, okay, I'll create a university that people can just be watered with personal development for everything that they're not taught, because they're not raised with any of these virtues, right? Because of the 40+% divorce rate, because of the plethora of single mothers, right? Who are great mothers, but terrible fathers. A necessity for your development. Masculine leadership, role models, virtues, man. Boldness. Do you think my mom taught me that? To be bold, to be assertive, to be dominant, to be a savage servant, to be a warrior in a garden? No, right? So if no one's gonna do it, somebody's gotta do it, right? Somebody's gotta be that guy. Someone has to lead the charge to what? To freedom, man. To be a leader amongst leaders. When we talk about being Christ-like, a leader amongst leaders, right? Somebody has to be that beacon of light for other people to follow, right? That beacon of hope that helps other people get out of their darkness, right? Who's been through hell, right? But they're not defined by that, that they alchemize all that. And then now they're a source of inspiration. Their story is, I saw such a good quote, and it said, your hero's story, will one day be another person's survival guide. As in, someone going through the exact same fucking thing as you, if you had the courage to overcome it, alchemize it, transmute it, become so much more because of it, you gave it a beautiful meaning, you said, how did this happen for me? And then you enacted this law, you entered action with boldness, and you became so much more. The quote, life's not about what you get, it's about who you become and what you're able to give now that you become more, and you become so much more. Now who are you helping? Now who do you have the potential and possibility to then give to? That little kid that you wish you had. Let's reverse that. You become the person that you wish you had when you were a kid. And now you get to be that guy, that hero for that kid. The hero that you wish you had. I'm butchering it. That fucking makes sense. So with that, that's the end of the law. So that is law number 28. Way over halfway done. We got 20 more to go. Enter action with boldness, man. Commit, and do whatever you need to commit. When I first started my personal development journey, I didn't buy one book, I bought 22. I bought 22 of these lovely books. I don't know if you can see them. 22. Massive action, right? Massive action. Not timidness, not shyness. No, maybe I'll just buy one book and see how it goes. No, fuck no, all in. Play your hand. You have nothing to lose by going for it ever, right? You'll never look back on your life with regrets for trying and failing. But I promise, the greatest pain in your life will be knowing that you could have created something great or became a great man. And that window of opportunity closes, and you're burdened for the rest of your life with what if, with regrets, with the terror of thoughts of the man that you could have become, the people you could have reached, the life you could have had, the woman you could have had, right? Had you had the courage to try.